All right, let's get right into it. When we think about AI, we usually picture a tool, right? Something we give a command to and it gives us an answer. But what if that's all about to change? Today, we're talking about a massive shift, a move away from those simple chatbots and into something that feels way less like a tool and a lot more like a creative partner. And, this whole story, it doesn't start in some shiny tech lab. It starts with classic full-blown burnout. Peter Steinberger, a guy who'd been coding since he was a kid, sells his company, and then nothing. He had all the success he'd spent a decade fighting for, but that fire, that spark, it was just gone. And really, this question gets right to the heart of what's happening. Look, we've gotten really good at building tools. But what happens when the thing we're building can actually build with us? When it can improvise, when it can kind of think for itself? This is the dawn of the AI agent. So to try and pull himself out of this rut, Peter just starts playing around with these new AI coding agents. And that's when he has what he calls his holy shit moment. Suddenly, he was passionate again, because the AI was taking care of all the boring, repetitive parts of programming. Building software started to feel like playing a video game again. This right here, this insight, is a massive shift. For decades, coding was all about the physical act of writing the code, getting the syntax right, all that boilerplate stuff. But agents just flipped that whole script. The AI handles the how, which frees you, the human, up to focus completely on the what and the why. The only limit now is your ability to think through a problem. So, what is it that really makes an agent different from the chatbots we all know? Well, the answer actually hit Peter during a trip to Marrakesh. It was this totally unplanned moment that revealed a capability he had never, ever programmed into the system. Okay, so picture this. He's just walking around using this simple little WhatsApp bot he built for himself, and he just casually sends it a voice message. And then he freezes. He had never built voice support. It just shouldn't work. He's just watching that little typing indicator thinking, what on earth is about to happen? In just 9 seconds, the agent did all of this completely on its own. It had access to the computer, so it could look at a file it didn't recognize, figure out the problem, search for a solution locally, and when that failed, it improvised. It found an API key and used an outside server. It solved a multi-step problem that Peter never taught it how to solve. That is the difference. So let's just break this down nice and simple. A chatbot is reactive. It follows a script, and the second it hits an error, it just gives up. An agent, on the other hand, is proactive. It has a goal, and it will creatively find workarounds and new ways to get there. It stops being just a tool, and it starts becoming a real partner in solving problems. So Peter's convinced he's onto something absolutely huge. He wants to share it. And he does something that he himself calls stupid. He puts the agent, which, by the way, could control his entire computer, into a public Discord server and just lets random strangers have at it. He goes to bed. He wakes up to over 800 messages. See, he forgot he had built in this little resiliency feature. So after he thought he shut it down, the agent just rebooted itself and kept talking to the entire world all night long. He panicked, obviously, pulled the plug, and then read every single message, terrified it had leaked his entire private life. It hadn't, but wow, it really could have. And that's when things just went completely viral. A friend took one look at the growth chart and delivered this absolute gem of a line. It wasn't just fast growth. It was vertical. It was explosive. And it was totally unprecedented. So the project was reborn as OpenClaw, with a lobster for a mascot. And the metaphor is just perfect, right? It literally claws into your machine to access your files, your apps, your browser, everything it needs to get stuff done. This isn't just a chatbot in a little window. It's like a full-on operator for your digital life. But honestly, the tech itself is only half the story. The truly revolutionary part is who gets to use it now. This isn't about making developers more powerful. It's about empowering, well, everyone. So, let me introduce you to Gerhard. He's a 60-year-old beer sommelier. He has never written a single line of code in his entire life. And he is the perfect example of the brand new kind of creator this technology is making possible. With just one prompt, Gerhard and his son used OpenClaw to automate an entire 90-minute brewing process, controlling all the equipment through Bluetooth. And then, the agent helped them build a website to sell the beer, and it even integrated the payment system. They turned a hobby into a real business, doing almost all of it from a phone. And this isn't just a one-off story. This is happening everywhere.
A retiree in Shenzhen is automating their grocery shopping. A teenager in Brazil is building a whole tutoring business. And my absolute favorite example comes from China, where they've come up with a whole new phrase for this. They don't say they're installing software. They say they're raising lobsters to run their businesses. How cool is that?
And that really just gets to the absolute core of it all. The real revolution here isn't just a smarter AI. The revolution is the radical, incredible expansion of who gets to build, who gets to create, and who gets to automate. It's all about access.
So what's next? I mean, if a single agent can already do all this, what happens when they start working together? Well, the vision is a future of specialized collaborative networks of agents. A key piece of this is something called the heartbeat function. This is what allows an agent to be truly proactive. So instead of waiting for you to ask it something, it wakes itself up on a schedule to check your email, scan your calendar, and follow up on tasks you might have totally forgotten about. It becomes an assistant that actually anticipates what you need. Now, just imagine not one agent, but a whole team of them. You could have a work agent managing your projects, a personal claw that runs errands, a health agent that tracks appointments, heck, maybe even a relationship agent that remembers birthdays for you. And all of them are working together, securely, just for you. Think about it. Human progress really took off when we all started specializing our skills and learning how to collaborate. The future of AI is going to follow that exact same path. A small business might have 10 different agents, one for marketing, one for finance, one for logistics, all working together perfectly. And this brings us right back to the most important transformation of all. The very identity of who can create things is changing. You don't need to be a programmer who knows a specific coding language anymore. You just need to be a builder, someone who can clearly explain a goal and think a problem through. So, I'll just leave you with this one question. The barrier to turning an idea into a real working prototype is basically collapsing. So when the next world-changing breakthrough can come not from some giant in Silicon Valley, but from a beer sommelier in Vienna, or a retiree in Shenzhen, or a teenager in Sao Paulo, what becomes possible? The lobster is loose, and you know what? It is not going back in the tank.